Before Zeus ruled the sky, before Poseidon commanded the seas, there was a god so feared that mortals refused to speak his name out loud. A god who ruled the most powerful realm in all of existence, not by choice, but by fate. This is the story of Hades, the king of the dead, and the world he built beneath your feet. In the beginning, the universe was nothing but chaos. From that chaos rose the Titans, ancient gods of unimaginable power who ruled the cosmos long before anyone else dared to. And from those Titans came a new generation, the Olympians, children born with the power to surpass their own parents. And that terrified Cronus, the king of the Titans, more than anything in the world. So he did what any fearful ruler does when threatened. He destroyed the threat before it could destroy him. One by one, Cronus swallowed his own children whole, trapping them inside him, in total darkness, in complete silence. Hades was the first to be taken. The oldest son, swallowed before he could even understand what was happening. He spent years inside his father, surrounded by nothing, hearing nothing, feeling nothing, but the cold and the dark, until his youngest brother Zeus finally put an end to it. Zeus had been hidden at birth, raised in secret, growing stronger with every passing year. And when the time came, he forced his father to release every child he had swallowed. Hades emerged, followed by Poseidon, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia. And together, the 6 Olympians declared war on the Titans. The battle that followed shook the foundations of the world. 10 years of war between the old gods and the new. Mountains crumbled, oceans split apart. The sky itself cracked under the force of it. And when the dust finally settled, the Olympians had won. The Titans were defeated, chained, and cast into the deepest pit of the earth. Now came the moment to divide the world between the 3 brothers. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades each drew a lot to decide their fate. Zeus drew the sky and became king of the gods. Poseidon drew the sea and became lord of the oceans. And Hades drew the underworld, the realm of the dead, a kingdom of eternal darkness deep beneath the surface of the earth. He had survived being swallowed alive. He had fought in a war that lasted a decade, and his reward was a world where the sun never shone. But here is what history has always gotten wrong about Hades. The underworld was not a punishment. It was not a prison. It was the most powerful kingdom in all of existence, because every soul that ever lived, every mortal who ever breathed, every king who ever sat on a throne, every hero who ever picked up a sword, would one day end up in his realm. No one escaped him. Not the greatest warrior, not the wisest philosopher. Not even the gods themselves could avoid the underworld forever. His kingdom was vast and unlike anything the living world could imagine. 5 rivers ran through it, each one carrying a different kind of power. The river Styx was the river of hatred and binding oaths, so powerful that even the gods swore upon it, and to break that oath meant losing their divine power for 9 years. The river Lethe was the river of forgetfulness, where souls came to drink and wash away every memory of the life they had lived. The river Phlegethon burned with fire that never consumed, flowing endlessly through the dark. The river Acheron was the river of woe, the first crossing every dead soul had to make to enter the kingdom. And the river Cocytus was the river of lamentation, where souls who had never received a proper burial wandered and wept for 100 years before they could cross. To make that crossing, every soul needed a single coin, placed on the tongue or over the eyes before burial. That coin was payment for Charon, the ancient ferryman who rowed the dead across the water in silence. Those who had no coin were left behind on the riverbank, not in the underworld, not in the living world, just waiting for eternity. And at the gates of the kingdom stood Cerberus, a creature with 3 heads, a serpent for a tail, and eyes that burned like coal in the dark. His purpose was simple and absolute. Let every soul enter, let no soul leave. He was the perfect guardian for a kingdom that had no need for locks. Once inside, every soul faced judgment, not by Hades himself, but by 3 judges, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus, who had lived as famously just rulers during their mortal lives. They weighed every soul not by wealth or power or reputation, but by the choices that person had made while they were alive. The virtuous were sent to Elysium, a paradise of golden light and endless peace, where the greatest heroes lived in eternal glory. Ordinary souls, those who had lived neither great nor terrible lives, were sent to the Asphodel Meadows, a gray, quiet, in-between place where they simply existed, forgotten and formless. And the truly wicked were sent to Tartarus, the deepest pit in all of creation, a place so dark and so terrible that even the gods refused to look down into it. There, the worst souls faced punishments designed to last forever. Sisyphus, who had cheated death twice through cunning and deception, was condemned to push a boulder up a steep hill for eternity, only to watch it roll back down every single time he reached the top. Tantalus, who had committed crimes too horrific to forgive, stood forever in a pool of water beneath branches heavy with fruit, both just out of reach every time he reached for them. Ixion, who had betrayed the sacred laws of hospitality in the most violent way possible, was bound to a spinning wheel of fire that never stopped turning. Hades did not create these punishments to be cruel. He created them because justice demanded it, because in his kingdom no one received special treatment. A king who had oppressed thousands faced the same judgment as the poorest slave. A celebrated hero who had done terrible things in secret faced the same scales as any ordinary man. The underworld was the one place in all of mythology where power meant nothing and truth meant everything. And that is the greatest misunderstanding the ancient world ever created about this god. Hades was not evil. He was never the villain. He never started wars between the gods. He never tricked innocent mortals or punished people who did not deserve it. While Zeus manipulated and deceived and betrayed, while Poseidon unleashed floods and storms on sailors who had done nothing wrong, Hades stayed in his kingdom and did exactly what he was meant to do. He maintained order in the one place that needed it most. The Greeks did not fear him because he was cruel. They feared him because he represented the one thing no human being, no matter how powerful, could ever escape: death. His name was so heavy with that meaning that people refused to say it out loud. Instead, they called him Plauton, the wealthy one, because beneath the earth lay all the gold, all the silver, all the precious stones the world had ever produced. Every treasure buried in the ground belonged to him. But even the king of the dead was not immune to longing. Persephone was the daughter of Demeter, goddess of the harvest. She was young and radiant, full of the kind of life that the underworld had never known. Hades saw her and felt something he had never felt in all his long existence. He tore open the earth and brought her down into his kingdom. Her mother Demeter was devastated. In her grief, she withdrew her power from the world, and the crops withered, and the earth froze, and people began to starve. Zeus was forced to act. He commanded Hades to return Persephone to the living world. But there was an ancient and unbreakable rule. Anyone who ate food in the underworld could never fully leave it. And Persephone had eaten 6 pomegranate seeds, so a compromise was made. 6 months above ground with her mother, in the warmth and the light. 6 months below, ruling beside Hades as queen of the underworld. And so, the seasons came to be. Every spring, when Persephone rises from the earth, the world blooms and the days grow warm. Every autumn, when she descends again, the world grows cold and the darkness returns. Hades finally had his queen, and the underworld, for the first time, had its light. He ruled his kingdom for eternity, not with cruelty, not with rage, but with the kind of quiet, absolute authority that comes from knowing your purpose completely. He was the god no one prayed to, the king no one wanted to meet, and yet the one that every single soul, without exception, would one day stand before, because in the end, everyone bows to Hades.